And there we go. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. What a nice day to play Sacred 2 and have day number 32 of review of Sacred 2 in this case. Alright. Oh, hang on a second. They want to kill me. They want to kill me pretty badly. There we go. Let me connect everything. How have you been, guys? How have you been? Hope you had a great weekend. And get ready, because what's going on here? What's going on with Twitch? I cannot see my own stream. Let's try this again then. Let's try this again. See if it lets me see, otherwise I can't see if the connection is working smoothly for you. Yeah, it's working smoothly. Alright. There we go. Let me refresh everything. Sorry that I arrived some minutes late. Some 10 minutes late. There we go. There we go. We refresh everything here. Good. Alright.
Come on, let's.
Oh, some gold. Some gold to begin our conquest. Alright. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to day number 32. Day number 32 of analysis, of review of this great game of Sacred 2. And for today, we have something very, very important. I've been investigating the secret dungeon that we have in this plateau, and sadly, we can only access it from a switch. We have to activate a switch in the southernmost region of the game. It's kind of like a secret area. So yes, we have to activate a switch down here in the jungle. I think it's over here, more or less, according to what I've seen. But well, bottom line is we cannot access the secret dungeon that I mentioned on Thursday, so it's out of our reach for now. And for today, we have the desert region. Yes, people, the desert region. We're gonna take, as you can see. No, thank you, Inquisitor. Stay put right there. Don't talk. I'm doing the summary. As you can see here, people, this quest, I believe it's bugged or something like that. I don't know. But as for the rest, as you can see, we've cleared all of the quests, all of the side quests in the swamp region, 100%. Of course, as I've said, the secret dungeon, you cannot access it. It's kind of like, it's technically not part of the swamp region. It's part of the main region of the game. And as I've said, the switch is down there. Okay. As you can see, we've cleared pretty much the initial central area, the northern area of Ancaria, the northern region, the Orc region, all of the islands region, including Nordland Island, and then we cleared the swamp region and we connected it with the central region. This island is explorable. I need to find the way because I've seen that it's explorable. And but besides this island and going back to Shalun Zoom, we will have to Besides those two areas, we have a 100% completion, as far as I can tell. Ah, yeah, and these islands here, we have to clear all of them. Remember, we're doing 100% completion of the game. And yes, for today, I want you to focus to have a retrospective. So, onwards we go. We say goodbye to the swamp region. As you can see, we beat the boss of the region. Now I know why I'm going up against double bosses. That's because in my we are doing a modded walkthrough, and basically it's kind of like one boss for the good side campaign and one boss for the evil side campaign. So that's why we are going up against two bosses at the same time. So yeah, pretty much. Alright, so onwards we go. We begin our journey to the desert region. Remember, this is our friend.
Let's go.
Yeahhh, he is accompanying us. He's part of the evil side. Actually, the Inquisitor quest, in which we are protecting humanity against monsters. So let's go onwards to the desert region. We begin our journey. I mean, we continue our journey. We've explored all of this last time. Here we fought the ghost miasma, the double ghost miasma region boss last time, and there it is. You can see that I'm not lying, but it's only one this time because we killed the other one. And don't tell me we'll have to kill it again. Don't tell me we begin with a world boss. It shouldn't be like that. Oh well. It looks like it, apparently. I mean, the exit should be roughly over there. I have no worries. No worry, I have no problems dealing with the world boss again, but we did it last time. Oh well, to hell with it. Let's begin with the boss fight, with the world boss fight. Otherwise, besides, it will have pretty good loot, probably. So let me trigger my divine gift. I remember that this boss, you couldn't deal damage to it directly. You had to kill the minions or deal area of effect damage, but it shouldn't take me that much. It doesn't have fire resistance, so as you can see, I have my ice resistance up and running. And look at that! I didn't loot the treasure last time. Yeah, it was by the end of the stream on Thursday, so I didn't. I went up against two of this swirling mist of miasma. Is a region boss. And basically you cannot deal direct damage. It's a pretty good gameplay. It's a pretty good boss mechanic, if you ask me. We don't see a lot of world bosses in RPGs in general that basically are immune to direct damage. So I appreciate the innovation in terms of the gameplay mechanics that this boss fight implemented. Kind of like the Karnak Demon boss fight, and the other ones were traditional boss fights. Granted, we went up against two of them because we are doing, and now I know the reason, people. Since we are doing a dual campaign of the game, we get kind of like the original bosses are the same for the they are the same for the good side campaign and the evil side campaign. So since we have dual campaigns, it makes sense. We go up against double regional storyline bosses. So we get double the fun and double the difficulty. So good. I better take my spider out of here before they kill it. I'm more worried about my spider mount than myself at this point. Don't follow me. Don't go where my spider is, please. Don't try to kill my mount. That spider is innocent. There we go. We do it again. On Thursday, we did kind of like, as I've said, 2 of these world bosses at the same time. Because, due to the fact that, as I've said, we are doing a dual campaign. And one of the effects of doing a dual campaign is that you get the boss for the good side campaign and the boss for the evil side campaign the first time you go up against them, when they're part of the story. Then, as you can see, the rest of the mod ensures that they're kind of like bosses that you can come back to, which is an amazing level design mechanic. Precisely that today I wanted to do a retrospective on the level design category of the analysis. So it's incredible that it's thanks to the mod. It's not part of a base game, because in the base game I think they don't respawn. But thanks to the mod, you can make them respawn, and that extends replayability almost. And we left here last time. Indeed, we left here last time. That extends replayability to the very maximum. Alright, so we left here last time after a small boss fight, a 10-minute intro and a boss fight. We will get into the belly of the beast. This dungeon will lead us straight to the main area of the desert region. So let's get to it. Let's get to it, people. Here looks like they deal poison damage, apparently. Pretty good ambience. As you can see, this cave does not use recycled assets because this bloom and this setting is completely different when compared to the setting of a lot of other caves that we've seen in the game. Which leads me to the first topic of discussion that I talked about this some streams ago, and I've been treating this as part of the analysis. Damn it, that was a pretty short transition. This is kind of like the transitions in Pokemon when you go from one area to the other one. Hey, now I feel like I'm playing Titan Quest. Have you ever played Titan Quest? Titan Quest is like this. It's kind of like the million different shades of yellow. Titan Quest is always like this. It's pure sun. It doesn't matter if it's the Greek portion, if it's the Egyptian portion, or if it's the well, in the case of the Nordic portion of the game of Titan Quest, that one has a snow, so that one doesn't count. But well, it doesn't matter. It's always all of the shades of yellow. If you want a game that will be yellow all the time, it's Titan Quest. I know, but then they added the Atlantis region relatively recently, after developing the final... after the rights of the franchise were acquired by THQ Nordic. When they re-released the game, they added the Atlantis and the Nordic regions, and they added a bit of variety. But the base game, it's all yellow. It's all sand. Then you have the expansion, the first expansion that was originally developed. The Immortals, the one about exploring Hades, the Immortal Throne. Oh, let's see. Durach Krimar. Okay. We've arrived at a Middle East region, something like that. Some good enemy variety. We're going up against humans that deal magic damage. Initial thoughts. Good enemy variety. Serpents of... There we have a serpent, a snake. Serpent, snake, use whichever one you like the most. And as you can see, they appear out of nowhere. That's good. And then they have all types of resistances except for ice. Damn it.
Fiend.
Damn it, that's a pretty good defense. I don't have ice damage except for this lodged spirit. I know it's poison. I have no ice damage. So you could say that they are my perfect counter. But they don't have a lot of poison and fire resistances. Hey, we get some enemy variety. Durak Krinar, humanoid monster. Ah, looks like there are some kind of demons. Alright. Very, very well, people. I love how the loot of the world boss was worse than the treasure chest of the world boss, of the miasma world boss of the swamp. It was worse than without what the world boss dropped itself. Okay. We've arrived. Halberd, there we go. Now that I think of it, my spider kind of like perfectly matches the theme of the desert because it's a perfect desert spider, in case you don't know. Yes, it's a desert spider, people. No, I actually don't know what it means.
This is the warrior's land. If you would pass through here, you must first prove your skill. You will fight each other. Only when one of you is dead may the other move on.
Right? Who?
Well then,
This guy?
An adventure seems to come to an end right here.
Huh? Ah! Our companion! Ah, we have to kill our companion. What an interesting turn of events. Let's do it. It was a test. Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. I appreciate the small plot twist. What's this? High Elf? We got a legendary ring, but it's exclusive to the High Elf? I didn't know there were exclusive rings, that there were legendary rings exclusive to some classes of the game.
You have proven that you have the skill of a warrior. You may continue your journey.
Sure thing, chieftain. Alright. Give me a second before proceeding, because I have... Sorry, I have a call. Give me a second, people. Just a second.
Whatever.
There we go. Sorry. It was a... it was a... It was a job call that I needed to... I needed to reply to. Sorry. You know that I don't like doing that on stream because I know that you are all eager to see what else we have in store, and that of course it completely destroys the flow of the stream. But yeah, sorry people, but I had to answer that one. Okay, sorry for that. I can appreciate the interesting twist of the plot line, because our ally was actually our enemy, and we need to kill him. Oh, we got buffalo skulls there, or bull skulls or something. Alright, now I feel at home. Now I feel like playing Borderlands or Titan Quest. I would say Titan Quest because of the isometric camera, but well. Borderlands 1, not so much 2, but Borderlands 1, it's also pretty much... It's not a desert, it's
the place of my destination.
What they call that? They're wastelands. Borderlands 1, they are technically wastelands instead of a desert, but you get the point. Games that have different shades of yellow as the terrain, pretty much. This one, the textures are pretty similar to Titan Quest, that's for sure. The visual of style is quite similar to Titan Quest here.
Welcome, stranger.
Okay.
It's rare to see foreigners in this part of the world. Be careful traveling here. We've been on the brink of a civil war since the king died. His brother took the throne, but it actually belongs to his nephew, the prince. One wrong word spoken in the right place can get you killed. If only the prince had access to the devil's fire. With this weapon in his hands, he could create enough fear among the tribal leaders to stop them from voting for the uncle in the upcoming elections. That's what the Grand Inquisitor said the last time he came to visit us.
That's also the plot of the Prince of Persia. The two crowns, or the two thrones.
Just in time.
At the beginning of the first game of Sands of Time, he kind of like the uncle betrays Dastan. That's a real name of the Prince of Persia, according to the movie. So we'll have to use that one because it's the only official name. He betrays the prince, and it looks like it's a pretty usual recurrent topic for Middle East based games in terms of a setting. Let's see, let's explore the desert. We have a long way to go, and precisely pretty good enemy variety. I've never seen these enemies in the game. They are exclusive to this zone, so brand new enemies. We have these pharaonic guards. I don't know. Hey, first secret zone. See why I love to hug corners? See why I love to explore the corners of the game? This was by chance. Really good, look at this. Amazing. Let me alt tab. I didn't alt tab today. And that is what precisely flushes the memory of the memory pipeline of the game. It's kind of like a toilet, and ensures that the game, at least hopefully, won't crash in the near future. Lumen, God of Light. Oh, this is the opposite of us, people. Right? Nothing at all. Nothing at all, but interesting to explore. Pretty good. I'm sure the desert holds many secrets that we need to uncover. It's our legendary duty to do so. Hey, 10,000 gold that I didn't see. My ability didn't work, but my cooldowns surely did. I think it was out of range or some shit. This is the first time this happens, honestly. Good. Alright, I see the first side quest to the left. I must be the only psychopath who explores games like this. Like, grab the corner, go over there. instead of going in a straight line. Oh well, people. It's what we're here to do. Oh, look at that! A mutated giant scarab, which only deals physical damage and only has physical and magic resistance. That should be easy to kill. Can we get into the water? We should. Sands of Thousand Antennae. Interesting. We cannot kill them from here. End of the road. Alright, it's a hard cap. It's a hard limit that the map is imposing to us. They appear out of nowhere. That is definitely a pretty...
Do you believe in the gods, Sandman?
Alright, let's see. Everyone who wants to kill me, this way, please. There we go. Take that. Clustering Maelstrom. Working as sharp as ever.
I don't have room for that.
These enemies are pretty easy, even if they are they are not mutated. It doesn't say mutated scarab. It doesn't say that. This one has fire resistance.
Another offering.
Not like it helped it. Not like it helped that poor minion. But well, let's try to use poison damage so we can kill them in one blow.
Everything is growing dim.
This one survived. Not for long. Hey, pretty good damage. Good. You forced me to use a potion.
Mistake.
Hey, look at that. They have a pretty high defense. They are evading most of my attacks. Yeah, this happened to me in the initial region of the game. I think scarabs have... Let me check it. I think scarabs have a pretty high evasion chance for some reason. Player's chance to hit 68, almost 70. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I have a lot of accuracy, yeah? So... Hey, this region has a custom Middle East soundtrack with a flute. Pretty good. Pretty good. Let me sell that, let me sell that, let me sell that. But the opponent's chance to hit is 33. Okay. Remember people, we are level 66. At level 75 we will get our third buff immediately. So, and I think this is the end, right? Hey, that one is not accessible. You can see there that the other scarab looks like an isolated region of the game that we need to find. Fighter, this way. My cute little shroud spider, this way. Let's see. More T energy. Remember that I call it the evil campaign because that's how the game calls it. But we are technically protecting humanity against monsters. Protecting humans against monsters. So pretty much I don't know if I should call it an evil campaign. But that's how the game calls it.
To the netherworld.
It's technically replicating what the original Spanish Inquisition did back in the Middle Ages. There's this demonized demonizing vision that the Spanish Inquisition in Middle Ages was kind of like brutal and ruthless and those things. You'd be surprised to know that they were much more civilized than than what most history books made out of it, because you have to compare it to what the situation was back in medieval times. Hey, that one is a mounted Durak Scarim. Hey, we've got a mounted warrior. Now I want a scarab mount. Oh, well, the spider is almost like a scarab mount if you think about it.
Your soul belongs to me.
That's it. Remember, as I always tell you people, since Argentina is kind of like it's a former colony of the Spanish Empire, and we are mostly composed of 60% Spanish, 40% Italian. Pretty much immigration after World War II and World War I. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about when I tell you that the medieval Inquisition was quite different to what most history books tell you about. Or at least those that were written by illiterates. I don't know. Basically, the Spanish Inquisition was much more civilized than not only the Spanish Inquisition. We had it wasn't exclusively Spanish thing. It was in all of Europe. First of all, that's the first fallacy. There was kind of like the Italian department, the British department, the different bases that they had across Europe. The French one, all of them. There were the Inquisition had kind of like different bases all across Europe. You know why? Because they were the basic objective and original purpose of the Inquisition was to fend off the attacks that would the external attacks that would get into Europe in medieval times. Kind of like at the borders. That's why we see that most of the Inquisition, the biggest bases were in Spain. That's because it was the kind of like the frontier. It was kind of like the frontier, and most of the invasions were coming from Middle East and North Africa. That's the thing. And pretty much you need to have the most the biggest part of the army, the most men over at the frontier, which was Spain, because it was the main point of entry of the Arabs back then. So yeah, but the Inquisition was a global phenomenon back in the day, because global was only Europe. America we weren't discovered yet. So North and South America. So pretty much, and civilization was only European back then. So pretty much, it was a global defense of external enemies. And you know how you realize this? Because England, you can see that I'm telling you the truth, because England had to, at some point, the original Spanish base was overrun for 100 years by the Arabs, by the Moors. Hey, this is from Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. They're using these portraits from Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. I realized that previously. Kill Hollows the Paralyzer. Greetings, my friend. We get the first side quest. You're probably looking for treasures in this area, aren't you? Let me tell you, you should avoid that cave not far from here. That's exactly where we are going. The King of Minotaurs has his camp there. Some simply call him a menace. Others refer to him as Hollows the Paralyzer. Watch out and stay clear of that cave.
You are indebted to the Inquisition.
Definitely what we are doing. So where's the cave? I remember that over at Northland Island, when we were in Northland Island, there was the only boss that killed me had a signpost outside of the cave, the Ice Hydra, which said, if you value your life, don't enter here. Good. It was the only world boss that could kill me in the past 10 streams. This is the cave? No, this isn't the cave. Otherwise, it would be marked. Yes, it is the cave. It's just that the questing system of the game misguided me. Misled me, actually, to be precise. Alright. Alright, they have magic and ice resistance. And ice resistance, sorry. Where's my doppelganger? Yeah, when you enter a dungeon, sometimes the doppelganger doesn't appear instantly.
Comes over you.
Alright, we're going up against Minotaurs. Enemy variety of the game is perfect because it has kind of like a lot of ambience cohesion, kind of like the enemies that you stumble upon, that you face in the swamp. They are different than the enemies that you face, at the swamp. I know that nowadays a lot of people say in instead of at in a lot of things, especially in the US, but no, people, we have to say at is the correct. Sorry, I teach English and I cannot. It goes against my nature to say it's not wrong, but the precise one it's at the swamp. It's not wrong to say in the swamp, but when you are referring to something, it's a subtle difference. When you are referring to something, hey, there it is, the first word, boss. Let's stop me talking about grammar. When you are talking about things that are kind of like you are referring to a place in general, you say at. When you refer that you are in, let's say, physically inside of it doing something, you can say in. It's a subtle difference that we usually don't pay a lot of attention to. That is important. Alright, there we go. You only deal physical damage, abandon all hope. Let me go for that one, and that should be it. Look at that, we did 2 world bosses in less than an hour. Easy. I love it how he felt, how it was kind of like perfectly static. That's realistic if you think about it. I think they did it on purpose, because kind of like telling you that it was a huge, powerful, almighty Minotaur that fell kind of like static.
Don't have room for this item.
Standing.
Don't have any room left for that.
He was standing, completely static, and he fell like an almighty and powerful Minotaur gladiator, which he is. Still can stand blush. What the?
I am fully stocked.
Nope. Hey, the soundtrack is like in Borderlands with that guitar.
Do I look like a
with those small guitar tunes.
I don't have room for this item.
This is not good. I have a mess in here. Let me sell this. Come on, it's gonna disappear. Shit. This one is legendary. I am losing money if I sell it like that. 39, 38, 38.
I don't have room for that.
Shut up, Inquisitor, you do. But see why I wanted to loot that one so desperately? Bergonic's Judgment, Shadow Warrior. That one's a lot of money. That one's worth a lot of money. Alright, as I was mentioning, people, the Inquisition wasn't, as we originally, as most books will tell you, it wasn't a Spanish exclusive phenomenon. It was also, it was a globally European phenomenon, because otherwise the neighbors of the, let's say, the frontiers that were being overrun by the Moors. CHS. Why I always like to explore everything 100%. The frontiers that were being overrun by the Moors in Middle Ages, after they would fall, then the next ones on the list were the Central and Northern European kingdoms. So it was in their best interest to also defend the frontier that was Spain and basically France, because there was a point in which they go to kind of like half of the southern 50% exactly portion of Spain was conquered by the Moors back then. That's why we have some few Spanish words that are actually derived from Arabic. But hey, that one converted into giant mutated scarab or something like that. So yes, actually it was a global phenomenon, and if you don't trust me, remember Richard the Lionheart was precisely one of the crusaders that was British and was sent to stop them. Age of Empires does a pretty good representation of that, for example. Just so you have a reference. Don't think that I'm basing my knowledge on Age of Empires, but I I can tell you that Age of Empires is a pretty good representation. For example, but in Spanish we have a lot of books kind of like written about that, because it's part of our.
Check my inventory one more time.
In the case of Argentina, since Argentina was a colony of Spain, it's part of our history. So pretty much that's the thing. That's the idea. I don't have my. That's why they are dealing a bit of damage. So we know we have to study all of those things, and as a consequence I can tell you that Great Britain, France, we had a lot of them. It was kind of like a common effort, like NATO nowadays, pretty similar. The Inquisition was a global phenomenon, because remember back then Europe was the only global society at that time. The rest was pretty much uncharted territory, which wasn't civilized. So a lot of people say that the Inquisition, for example, was savage and those things. It was quite civilized compared to what was outside of inquisitorial territory, if you think about it. Because outside, the Inquisition would have a judicial system, for example, and after the fall of the Roman Empire, savage tribes wouldn't have that. So when the medieval kingdoms re-emerged, they salvaged a lot of the knowledge from the Roman Empire in Middle Ages, and the Inquisition, which, as I've said, is not exclusively Spanish phenomenon, it was a global European phenomenon, but as I've said, we always remember the Spanish portion of it, because it was a frontier against the Moors. The basic objective was to defend Christianity from Islam, basically, because it was remember that back in the Middle Ages, Europe was all Christian after the collapse of the Roman Empire. It was all Christian. So imagine, all of Europe was Christian, and they needed to defend, civilized societies needed to defend against the Moors. And Spain just occasionally happened to be the frontier through which the Moors were attacking. It's absolutely incorrect. It's a historically incorrect notion to say that the Inquisition was exclusively Spanish. The Inquisition was concentrated in Spanish territory because it was a frontier, but all European kingdoms back in the day contributed with troops, because what they were originally defending was Christianity, rather than the modern notion that we have nowadays of defending our territory, because nowadays the religion is split. It's kind of like, there we go. Religion nowadays, it's a split from our governments. We don't have religious governments, fortunately. But back in Middle Ages, the religion was intrinsically, inherently tied to the medieval kingdoms. So, after knowing that, you can actually realize why all European kingdoms contributed to the Crusades and the Inquisition, contrary to popular belief. That popular belief says that the Inquisition was. I've heard a lot of people say this, and I've read a lot of books that say this, and it's essentially wrong. That the Inquisition was exclusively a Spanish phenomenon. That's not true, because think of it like this, people. Spain was the frontier. It was kind of like the forefront, the front line of defense against the Moor invasion of Europe in Middle Ages. But imagine that the Moors got to the central region of Spain. Think about it that way. There was a point in the Moors' religious warfare that they go to the central region of Spain. And by that time, imagine being France at that time. They were kind of like knocking at the gates. So there you have evidence that, contrary to what a lot of history books say, the Inquisition was a global phenomenon. Because remember, back then we only had Europe to analyze, so it was a global phenomenon to Europe precisely. And a lot of people say that it's exclusively a Spanish thing, but it's not, people. Imagine that they go to central Spain, and they were knocking at the doors of France. So it was in their best interest of the rest of the European medieval kingdoms to defend Christianity against the Moor invasion. So that's one of the things. That I wanted to highlight, because this game has a lot of, even though it has a lot of medieval fantasy elements, it has a lot of accuracies. For example, it has an organization called the Inquisition that we are playing as a member of it. We're playing as a member of it, but alright, this is the plan, people. We will explore the desert region today. We'll begin with the northern section, right? We'll try to explore all of the northern section until we get to the main area, which looks to be, I still don't know, the main settlement of the area. And from there we'll expand to the west and to the southern sections of it. So first we'll begin from the northeastern section of the map, following the shape of it. Precisely, that's always the most effective way to do it. And we'll get to the central main city. From there we'll expand in all directions. That's pretty much the idea. We have a lot to explore today. It's a new region after all. And precisely that leads me to the topic of analysis that I wanted to comment today. That I wanted to have a retrospective on, because we've already talked about it in previous streams. The level design, people. The level design. We've commented on stream with Scarlet Dragoon, for example. Another viewer of the channel, in case you're watching this as a YouTube pod. that, let's use the teleportation, it'll be faster. Yeah, because there's kind of like a division, a hard division between them. The level design, people. First of all, the first thing that we have to say as a bit of a quick recap to get into the new elements of the end game section of the level design category of the analysis. Before we get into that, a bit of a retrospective. The game has the size, as you could see, and I've commented sometimes, it has the size of a Skyrim, essentially, as we commented. But this is something that I've mentioned. It has the size of World of Warcraft, as well, pretty much. But as I've commented, this game, the level design, has a perfect hybrid combination of inherited level design development elements. The procedurally generated level design philosophy of pre-Elder Scrolls 3
Desert creature
games, for example, Elder Scrolls 2, Daggerfall, that had a lot of procedurally generated dungeons. I know that nowadays we don't hear this word a lot, but it's the correct denomination. Dungeons that simply have a lot of random elements, pretty much similar to the roguelike genre that we get nowadays. Well, that's a resurgence, the roguelike genre, it's a resurgence of the procedurally generated level design philosophy from the 90s, from Elder Scrolls to Daggerfall, for example. I cite this game because it's probably the most famous back then that used this system. We get that element in the overworld of Sacred 2. We get that element because the spawns are random, because the fetch quests, that is one of the elements that I wanted to treat today, because this game has a level design of an MMORPG game. That's why I first wanted to do the genre classification of the game before getting into the level design aspects of the end game, because first you need to know that this is an isometric MMORPG instead of an isometric action RPG. It's more like World of Warcraft rather than Diablo. I always cite the Blizzard games because they are the most famous and the ones that people have played the most. So it has the quest structure of an MMORPG, not an isometric action RPG. That's extremely important because, as you can see, let me read this one, Sistan, as you can see, it has a huge impact and influence on the level design of the game. Think about Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3. Think of how many quests we have in those games. Pretty much 6 per chapter. We have 4 chapters. No more than 30. We have 24. And in this game, we have 700 quests. 700 quests. Compare that, 24 to 700. There's a huge gap. Were there 6 in Diablo 2? Yeah, there were 6. Well, pretty much you get the point. In Titan Quest, you can also use Titan Quest, so that one has some more quests. But the density, the quest density, yeah, let's read. Take the High Elves' homes, please help us, we've been, now we are stuck in this, at this ruin. Our running, if we don't get help soon, either our thirst or our desert folk will kill us. Please take us home. Alright, this is a core mission. It's a score mission, people. You can see the huge difference in the level design. That's why I first wanted to do the genre classification that we did 2 weeks ago. That's why I wanted to do the genre classification. Because, people, as I always say, before we get into the level design, as I always say, it's important to have a metaphysically realist view of game reviews to reach all of these conclusions. What I always say, people, and I will repeat it till the end of times, because it's the main reason why we don't get efficient game reviews nowadays. When the definition of reality, this is getting into the metaphysical aspect of it, but when the definition of reality, what's reality, people? When the definition of reality is the sum of mental perceptions for a game reviewer and for everything in society, but it exceeds the purpose of my streams, as I always say.
Give your energy to me.
When the definition of reality is the sum of mental perceptions of opinions, or the doxa, as we used to call it in ancient Greece, the end result of that line of thought is that the quality of the game is subjective, as I always say. It's always important to remember this. When the quality of the game that you are analyzing is subjective, you are changing the focus of the analysis from the object to the subject. Clear example that I use, but I'll change the game because last time for Titan Quest and Diablo I always use those. If you liked, analyze this phrase, if you liked World of Warcraft, you will probably like Lineage 2, or you will probably like I don't know, any MMORPG that you like, people. Wildstar, that was closed, poor Wildstar, or whichever MMO that your most favorite one. When I say if you like World of Warcraft, you will like Lineage 2, because they belong to the same genre. I am not defining objectively the reason why that happens, because they belong to the same genre. Yeah, but with that line of reasoning, that's a relativist argument. Because I'm still putting the focus of the analysis on the subject. You like it because you liked another game which belongs to the same genre, right? The subject, you, the one I'm recommending the game to, is the focus of the analysis. That is because the person is the reviewer, the game reviewer, is unconsciously defining reality as the sum of mental perceptions, as the sum of human mental perceptions. The only way, as I always say, that system works is by ignoring metaphysical reality, by defining reality as a sum of mental perceptions. Alright, and through here I can access the first area. We're straight from our path. But well, here I have an exit. Let's get through there. Let me call my trusty spider mount. The only way that system works, the only way a relativist definition of reality works, is by ignoring metaphysical reality, by ignoring the fact that metaphysical reality has an independent existence from my mental perception. I know that all of these things that we always treat on the channel, they are pretty intricate, people, but they are essential, because they are essential. It was back there. They are essential because they will define all of the mindset that the reviewer will have when analyzing a game. It also impacts all of real life, with a lot of topics that, as I've said, they exceed my game reviews. But if you like, we can treat them in the future, but it's pretty much off topic. So yes, see the difference between saying you like World of Warcraft because you like Lineage 2 because you like World of Warcraft. The focus of the analysis is on the subject. The way realist philosophers, and by extension me, in this case that I analyze games, we analyze games, people, is to put the focus on the object. But to do that, first, we must recognize metaphysical reality as an independent existence from our mental perception. Right? Because otherwise, it's a closed system in which everything is a matter of opinion. It must have happened to you, people. It must have happened to you that perhaps you are having, as I always say, people, it doesn't need to be an argument or anything violent. An intellectual discussion, a debate. Think about your own country's Congress or Parliament, in case if it's European. You know that here in Argentina it's a pretty unique case because we have 100% European culture, but we have American the American system of institutions, so we have Congress rather than Parliament. But think about the Parliament, that in which the congressmen simply say their opinions and everything, and blah 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 blah. Or you are having a discussion with something that doesn't need to get into an argument, just a debate, and you give the person logical arguments, right? You tell them, well, this is like this because of this, and this, with logical arguments, as I've said, that respond to metaphysical reality. And the person will say, all right, I get all of that, but that's your opinion and I have mine. The opinion, the doxa, as they used to call it in ancient Greece. It's ironic that in ancient Greece they could tell the difference between, there was a bit of magic thought involved, because they call it the plane of ideas and the plane of reality, and the plane of ideas was pretty much magical. But nowadays we know that it's not magical, that it's our mind and our brain and our conscious being. When you're having a discussion with the person, and generally when the person is cornered by logical arguments that they cannot debunk, that they cannot do the mental process of debunking it because they respond to metaphysical reality, your logical arguments, they say, well, but that's your opinion and I have mine, and we must respect each other's opinions and etc. Yes, we can respect each other's mental perceptions, right? But one thing is to respect someone's mental perception, and that totally different thing is saying that the sum of mental perceptions defines metaphysical reality. That reality is a sum of metaphysical perceptions. Let's go back to my usual example that I think it's extremely clear. It was pretty much the original Greek example with different objects. For example, see this, people? See this? This gaming mouse. I always repeat this system of analysis because it's imperative, people. I know that that is boring for you guys over at Discord and over at and the followers of the channels and all of that, but it's extremely important because it defines how we are going to analyze it. This is a game mouse, right? This is a gaming mouse. We all agree on that. Eraser, it's evident. We can see it, we can touch it, we can see it. But what if I asked you why? Why is this a gaming mouse? Why do we call it a gaming mouse? Or why do we call a chair instead of table? Or why do we call the sky blue, as in my as you can read in my perfectly described example? I think I have that one at the Twitch tabs. Then I need to review it. For those of you watching this as a YouTube bot, the only way to see my written example is down here. Why is this a gaming mouse, people? Why do we call it like that? Well, the first approach that we will get nowadays, besides a pretty weird look, if we ask this on the street, can you imagine? Why is this a street? Right? Imagine if someone asked that on the street, I would probably end up in jail or something like that, or at least either as a genius or a criminal. People will give you a weird look if you asked, why is this a street? Can you define me why this is a street? Or why is that a car? Or why is this a person? Relativism solves this conundrum with a closed system. The one that I've been describing all along, people. That I describe so many times when analyzing the games. Relativism will tell you, this is a mouse, this is a gaming mouse, you call it a gaming mouse because we, all human beings, our mental perceptions, our opinions, the sum of those mental perceptions simply agree to call it a mouse. But if society decides to call this a chair, it would be viable in that system. It would be viable because metaphysical reality does not exist in relativism. Metaphysical reality does not exist. It's the sum of mental perceptions. We all agree. Imagine there's in a pretty wicked example. Yes, I know that I use the British pronunciation. People always tell me instead of wicked, I use wicked. I can use both of them. The wicked, in this wicked example, In this week's example, imagine we create a law that says that this will be called a chair from now on instead of a gaming mouse, or a table, whichever one you like the most. See how it distorts mental perception so much that it can be pretty much anything. If we say that this is a chair, it would be viable because it's a closed system. With game reviews, it's the same. You probably must have heard the phrase, just like I said in discussion, that's your opinion and I have mine, and we both have different mental perceptions, and that's it. We never reach any objective conclusions through relativism. It's impossible, because metaphysical reality does not exist. It's not acknowledged in its existence. Only thing that matters is mental perception. So, we call this a chair, and in the case of game reviews, you will like this. Some people will like it, some people won't. Generally, haven't you heard streamers and YouTube reviews say kind of like, some people will like it, some people won't. The focus of the analysis is on the subject, not the object. And that's called the fallacy of relativism. This has been studied for 2,000 years, but for some reason, relativism is more popular because it's easier. There is a reason. And what's easier, what is easier to understand is more seductive. Have you noticed that all mainstream content is kind of like easy to understand always? It's because of that. Because what's easy to understand for the mind, it creates dopamine, you don't realize it. What you understand easily, it makes you feel like you understood it, and it makes you feel intelligent, and you don't put in the effort of understanding things on a things that maybe are more complicated. Easy things to listen to and popular and to understand. They are pretty much, that's why they are popular, because they are easy to understand. Now, how do we solve this? How do we solve this that will lead us into a correct analysis of the level design and the gameplay mechanics that we've been analyzing for 32 days and everything? We must answer the question, why is this a mouse and not a chair? Relativism will tell you, this is a mouse because we will agree to call it a mouse. The sum of human mental perceptions agree that this is a mouse. We create a law in our Congress or Parliament, we pass in something like that, and the law says it's a chair. It's a chair. Metaphysical realism, previous to the Age of Enlightenment, that sadly popularized this line of thought, which was much easier to understand for people. It was much easier to understand, so it was more practical. And I don't want to say this, but it was easier to manipulate people with relativism, because since metaphysical reality is a sum of mental perceptions, there isn't any objective reference to go back to. There's no fallback reference to go back to. So it's easier to twist, to control. It's easier to control than metaphysical realism. Relativism is easier to control by whoever has the power. And they understood that pretty well in ancient times as well. How do we answer the question that why is this a mouse, without saying that it's a sum of mental perceptions, that we call it because it's a sum of mental perceptions? This is a gaming mouse because it's a specific combination of molecules and particles that could never be a chair. It could never be. Why? Because a chair has a specific combination of molecules, particles, and atoms that is completely different when compared to a gaming mouse. Yes, but if society all agrees and they are all convinced of this, and we say it for 2,000 years, it'll be like they will repeat it. Yeah, but the fact that a subject repeats it doesn't make it metaphysical reality. Because thoughts don't change metaphysical reality. Actions change it. So even if we all agree to think that this is a chair, this is a gaming mouse, because it has a specific combination of molecules and particles that have a lot of that go even much deeper as to why we call it a gaming mouse. For example, For example, this specific combination of molecules and particles that is a gaming mouse, that is a mouse, it has a subconscious reference that has been built throughout millions and millions of years of us humans being in contact with an animal called mouse, precisely, which coincidentally, not coincidentally, this is metaphysical reality in motion, has the same shape, it has the same physical shapes, the atoms and the particles here have the same shape, they are organized in the same shape as a real animal called mouse. So it's a direct reference to something that's subconscious, to an animal that subconsciously the human being has been in contact with for millions and millions and millions of years of seeing it, touching it, dissecting them, probably, seeing what, for example, is studying what they eat, paying attention to the shape of it, millions and millions of years of reference, and that is metaphysically objective. That's why we don't call this a chair, why it is incorrect to call it a chair instead of a gaming mouse. I know it's extremely dense to treat game reviews like these, people I always mention, because it's a lot of elements kind of like contained in one, kind of like all condensed together, and it's a huge load of metaphysical information. But it's the correct way if you pay attention, because in my previous example I said, if we say that simply metaphysical reality is equal to the sum of human mental perceptions, at the end of the day we don't have an objective reference as to why a game has more quality than other. We cannot objectively discern the quality of the game. For example, because I want to extrapolate the metaphysical analysis that I just did to the game reviews. See the difference between what I just said? You like World of Warcraft because... you like Lineage 2 because you like World of Warcraft. Or you like Titan Quest because you like Diablo 2. See the difference between that subjective analysis of putting the focus of the analysis on the subject instead of the object, from saying this. Due to the fact that the abstract complexity of the gameplay, we did this last week, due to the fact that the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics in Diablo 2 has a lot of elements that are inherited by Titan Quest and expanded upon, because in Titan Quest, for example, you can have one-click builds that are not present in Diablo 2, at least the base version of it. It doesn't count if it's modded. The abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics is higher than in Diablo 2, objectively, in the aspect of the combat system of the game, for example, or and the hit point detection, the point-and-click hit point detection in Titan Quest is objectively better than in Diablo 2. Why? Because Titan Quest has a 3D engine. I'm touching a bit. I'm taking into account the graphics section of the analysis. Titan Quest is in 3D, and the hit point is properly programmed, properly developed, and 3D gives you a sense of depth that 2D back in the day simply didn't give you. So in terms of the isometric action RPG genre, Diablo 2 and Titan Quest that they belong to, objectively Titan Quest has a better hit point detection, and you can verify it with the epistemic evidence. It's much more precise, and that's objective. The important thing is that that's objective. It's not a matter of mental perception. You can misclick much more frequently in Diablo 2 than in Titan Quest. Yes, if you practice a lot in Diablo 2, you probably won't misclick. And generally, Diablo 2 it's a father of the genre. I love that game, and I awarded it a 10 out of 10, without a doubt. And the innovation category of Diablo 2 is objectively much more important than Titan Quest, because it popularized the genre, introducing a lot of objective abstract gameplay mechanics that that, for example, streamlined a lot of classic RPG mechanics that came from the classic RPG genre, like Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale. So in terms of innovation, objectively, Diablo is superior, but in terms of the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, Titan Quest is superior. In terms of the point-and-click system, the targeting system of the game is superior. The same with, for example, we can grab different genres. For example, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is superior to all 3D games from the 5th generation because it solved the issue of C targeting. And that's objective. This is the important part, people, that I always say. That's objective. That's not subjective. It's not a matter of mental perception. It's not that I say that The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was superior because of my mental perception, what we usually hear about. You're a fanboy, you're a total fanboy, and those things. No, because then I'll tell you that, for example, God of War, during the 6th generation, had one of the smoothest hack and slash gameplay mechanics alongside Devil May Cry, for example. But the fact that, give me a second, the fact that The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time solved the issue of C targeting makes the targeting more precise. The lock-on mechanic made that game objectively more precise at targeting than other 3D games back then. And in the case of Sacred 2, we explained this when we... I think we talked about this topic on Thursday when we talked about the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, of the elemental gameplay mechanics of Sacred 2, and I established pretty much a rank. And that, because of the logical arguments I gave you, is objective. As I've said, think about which game did I use as an example on Thursday? It was well, there are not many with an elemental resistance system on as a second layer of abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. There aren't a lot. For example, first, hang on. For example, going back to our rank of Thursday.
Emanates from this item.
I said on Thursday, while analyzing the elemental resistances system of the game, that, for example, there we go, Sacred 2 has an elemental resistances system in both offensive and defensive aspects of the game, and that objectively makes the gameplay in Sacred 2, the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, superior to the rank that I established. Think about World of Warcraft or Diablo 2. Remember, people, it's not that I hate World of Warcraft. You can see there that I have a poster of the Lich King, a banner of the Lich King, and Diablo 2, I played those games to death. I use them because they are the most popular, and everyone can have a reference of the example that I'm talking about. Imagine if I said something like that, like I don't know, Blood Sports TV that we played on stream last year. No one would be able to establish the mental model of a reference, and that's not what I like. So imagine World of Warcraft, right? We imagine World of Warcraft, and think about the damage you deal in World of Warcraft or in Skyrim, just so I can use popular games as a reference. Imagine those games. When you deal damage in World of Warcraft, the only difference that could possibly happen... Yeah, we're getting there. We've arrived at the... no, it's not the main settlement, but it's the first settlement that we need to get to. And we have another side. That's the main quest, so let's get over there. Imagine the elemental damage system in World of Warcraft. The abstract complexity. When you deal damage in World of Warcraft, the only difference is the color of the floating damage numbers. If it's physical, it's white. If it's magic, magical damage is yellow. But there isn't a backend system behind zines establishing a difference between those systems. It's just aesthetic. It's just aesthetic. And this brings me back to the topic that we precisely talked about on Thursday. The elemental resistances. Pay attention, people, to the elemental resistances. In World of Warcraft and Diablo, we have them at the bottom of the table in terms of the simplicity of the elemental system implemented. Pay attention to that. In Sacred 2, just like in Borderlands and Hellgate London, we have five types of damage. You can see them all here. Physical, yellow one. Magical, or magic damage, the blue one. Fire damage, the red one, or orange one. Ice damage, the teal one. And the green one, poison damage that we've been using. We have 5 types of elemental damage. Tell me, objectively, in World of Warcraft, in Diablo 2, do we have an elemental damage system in which we have 5 different types of damage, or is all the damage the same? That you deal to NPCs and mobs is the same. It's the same. See how I could get to a logical argument which had an objective element that tells me that the elemental system of Sacred 2 is objectively superior. See that I don't put any emphasis or focus on the subject of the analysis. It's all the object, the game. That's why I can tell you that the abstract complexity of the elemental system that you'll find in Sacred 2, it's higher than in World of Warcraft. If on top of that we add a middle ground example like Borderlands, in Borderlands what happens? You have the 4 types of elemental damages and but you don't have the resistances, because the only thing you can loot in Borderlands are weapons. And they define, you have 4 weapons, one, ideally, by the end of the game, one with each elemental damage type. And enemies are weak against specific elemental damage types, but you, as a player, you don't loot chest guards, you don't loot caps, you don't loot trousers, or you don't loot gear besides your weapon that influences the elemental damage system of the game. So the abstract complexity in Borderlands, a game that was developed and released after Sacred 2, while it's more complex than World of Warcraft and Diablo 2 and the classic Blizzard system because it has the 4 types of elemental damages, it doesn't have the elemental, it only uses them offensively. It doesn't have an elemental model of resistances implemented to the defensive portion of the game. And if we take into account that performing attacks is 50% of the gameplay mechanics of a game, of an RPG, and 50% is defending against attacks from mobs or from world bosses or whatever, Borderlands doesn't have the defensive aspect of the game. It doesn't have the defensive aspect of the elemental system of the game. So it's 50% that's left out of the equation. In the case of Sacred 2, you have both systems complete. And on top of that, we have another layer of complexity that I'm going to cover as soon as we talk to this guy. Hang on a second.
Welcome to my realm. I'm sure you already learned.
So this is the prince.
I want to be elected peacefully, since a throne won by violence can only be kept by violence. Don't get me wrong. I like a bloodbath from time to time, but that'll keep me too busy to enjoy my throne. Now, the tribal leaders will never vote for me without a little incentive, if you get my drift. Better weapons make stronger arguments, and the strongest would be the Devil's Fire. I must have that weapon, at any cost. A caravan carrying an important ingredient for the Devil's Fire is en route to my uncle. Will you attack the caravan and get the basilisk eyes for me? You can rely on my gratitude. I'll personally take
Sure
care
thing,
of it.
Prince. So, as I was mentioning, people, so we can finish this and get to the level design retrospective of the analysis, that now that we've gotten to the end game part of the game, we will, I wanted to once again talk about that. Finally, Sector 2 has the most complex abstract model of the gameplay mechanics, the most abstract, the highest complexity of the abstract gameplay mechanics, of the abstract gameplay model of the mechanics, the highest degree of complexity of the gameplay mechanics of a lot of RPG games. Why? Because the abstract complexity involves 5 types of elemental damage and 5 types of elemental resistances. On top of that, we must add the layer of complexity that it has an active defense system. As you can see, people, as you can see, I actively change, according to the relic system of the game, my elemental resistances according to the enemy that we are going up against. As you can see, I've been using magic resistance because, as you can see, their damage, this is my last opponent, it deals 50% physical damage and 50% magic damage. But for example, this enemy has physical resistance, magic resistance, fire resistance, and poison resistance. So, here you have my basic attacks. It took me 30 streams to loot and balance my weapons appropriately, so I have 50%, so I have 30% physical damage, 30% magic damage, and 30% fire damage, as you can see there, in my basic attacks. So we have an offensive elemental damage system and a defensive elemental system. At the same time, you have to protect yourself against the type of damages that the mobs deal, and you have to penetrate the defenses of the mobs according to the elemental resistances that they have. But that's not all, people. One detail that we discovered not so long ago is that combat arts, posh word for abilities, a posh naming convention for abilities, they are influenced, as you can see there, that my abilities, my different abilities, I have this one selected right now, Ruthless Mutilation. If I do this, the elemental damage of the ability changed completely, and this ability's original elemental damage is actually ice. You can see there that it's poison because of my gloves here. If I take them out, ice damage, as you can see there. If I put these gloves here, if I equip the gloves, it turns into poison. I mean, the same happens with, that's why I have this one open, with Levinar, right? This one is actually physical damage, this one is 50%, this is all physical damage, and now it's 50% poison damage. So, I can influence the type of elemental damage of my abilities. I cannot do that in Borderlands, and I also don't have a dedicated loot system, like the relics, and some isolated, for example, amulets. For example, you can see here that Arthamax's Star has some elemental resistances, but they're only amulets as far as I can tell. Normal gear does not drastically influence. See that it's all physical, almost all. This one has a bit of poison. See that the loot system of the game has 2 isolated circuits. The elemental defense, DL3 actually. The elemental offense of your abilities, because the globes influence the elemental type of damage of your abilities. And then my weapons, the weapons influence the elemental type of damage of my basic attacks. So we have 2 isolated offensive systems and 1 defensive isolated loot system. So the game actually has 3 loot systems working in tandem at the same time. See how important it is, what I mentioned at the beginning, to analyze the game in a metaphysically objective way. Because you cannot reach any of these conclusions if you simply say, oh well, it's a matter of opinion. But I say, imagine if now I said, but World of Warcraft has a more complex loot system. Yeah, the next question would be why? Why do you say that? And that's exactly when the first part of the analysis. Speak with Jarov, the master brewer, bringing around town sober hard. Customers demand a high alcohol content. I have nothing no more restaurant. Delivery. Would you be so kind as for Jarov?
You should
There we
feel
go.
honored.
Let's leave here because I want to explore the. I want to have the desert explored a bit more. I don't see a lot of side quests yet. Ah, perfect. See why I always like to pick up the quests before exploring. Let's explore the northern section of the desert, as I've said, as we complete that quest. See why there's always a bit of backtracking, and if I had explored that previously, it would have been, I would have had to backtrack all over the place. So yeah. So we have 3 isolated loot systems working independently from each other, but working in tandem. One influences the defensive system of the game, and the other ones influence the.
Everything goes as planned.
I can give you the goods before I don't assignment. I'd like to. Good, it's a nested quest. See, this is pretty common. Kill him. Please find my Manji Mut and kill him. He's a bit of and T-Staff proof. Alright, there it is. See, I told you. See, I already know this game like the palm of my hand. So yes, and with all of this that I mentioned, objectively, as I'm telling, I can say objectively, because of the logical arguments that I gave you, the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics in Sacred 2 is higher than the average modern RPG, for example. It's higher than in Borderlands. It's higher than in World of Warcraft. This is an objective analysis because the focus is on the object, not the subject. It's not a matter of mental perception. See how, at this point, it's not a matter of mental perception. The problem is that this mental process, to reach these conclusions, it's impossible if you just say that the game being good or bad is just a matter of mental perception. It's not a matter of mental perception, people. That's why we sometimes get games that people say, but this game is terrible. And then the professional gaming press, for example, says it's good. Because professional gaming press, sadly, cannot do this has this subconscious process of analyzing, reviewing games with a relativist mindset. In fact, that's normal because we live in a society influenced by relativism after the Age of Enlightenment, after the influence of Nietzsche, Engels, Immanuel Kant, and many more. That's normal. It's a consequence that we get game reviews that are performed, that are done from a relativist mindset, but essentially, just as if we all agree in a room that this is a gaming chair, that this is a chair instead of a gaming mouse, just like that would be metaphysically wrong, not wrong because we all agreed to call it a chair, just like that would be metaphysically wrong, saying that the abstract complexity of Sacred 2 isn't higher than the average modern RPG game would also be a fallacy. It would be metaphysically wrong, objectively wrong. Why? Because I gave you a lot of logical arguments as to why the specific combination of molecules and particles that make the pixels and everything that is the very metaphysical essence of Sacred 2 has a higher abstract complexity. And you must be thinking, well, but perhaps the person, this would be a relativist argument, for example, perhaps the person is not very good at video games, for example. See how I'm putting once again the emphasis, the focus of the analysis on the subject. Maybe the person doesn't like hard games. Maybe the person doesn't like hard games, right? And since the abstract complexity of Sacred 2 is higher, then the game is worse for that person's mental perception. Would that make the game objectively worse? After listening to all of my analysis, people, you can deduce that no, that would be a fallacy. You did a good job. The beast burns in hell now. Here's in order. Take perfect. Cheers, magnificent. We are progressing. See, we've already explored a huge, pretty decent part of the desert. Let's complete our exploration, people. Or we can get to the capital and see if it makes us backtrack, huh? We have a portal there. Good, we unlocked the portal. Damn it. No. We could get to the capital first. No, generally, yeah. Let's get to the capital because probably there are quests. Yeah, that's right. We'll take a different path. I mean, a different path. We'll go straight up. Let's go to the capital because I have a hunch that we'll get a lot of quests because that's the quest structure of this game. So yes, people, as you can see, if I say that, imagine the abstract complexity is higher, and since I am a person who likes easy games, Stop was that. Now this is definitely Borderlands. The game is worse for me because I like easy games, right? For example, that would still be a fallacy, and while the mental perception of that person who likes easy games, the dogs, while the mental perception would be that the game is worse, the objective metaphysical reality is that the game is superior in terms of the abstract complexity of the elemental system and thus the gameplay mechanics of it when compared to the average game. Mental perception does not modify the particles, the atoms, metaphysical objective reality. That's the thing. This is a gaming mouse because of the specific combination of molecules and particles, not because we all agree to call it a gaming mouse. And like that, we can apply that line of reasoning to, hey, huge spider, to this example. Would the fact, think about it, people, would the fact that this person, that the mental perception of one individual or a group of individuals is that easier games are better, that the easier the game, the better, would that change the fact that the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics of a game enhances replayability? Would it modify it? No. Games with a higher complexity.
Perfect for my plans.
Perfect, Khorum. This has to be the capital of the desert region. We were right, people. We are making our first steps into the. This will be our base of operations. Here we'll have everything, a smith and everything that we'll use to explore the map. Remember, that's my plan. Get to here, grab all of the quests, and explore today at least the northern section of it. Remember, we're doing a 100% modded completion of the game that is more than 700 quests. It's quite different when compared to the vanilla experience, so that's why we'll progress through the game slowly. Remember, as I always say, in order to be fair in the review of your game, you need to get to the... My mental perception is precisely, since I'm a realist reviewer, a realist philosopher, a realist reviewer, is that in order to fairly analyze a game, you need to do a 100% completion of it on the highest difficulty possible, because otherwise you don't get to the essence of the core gameplay mechanics it has to offer. If you play a game on easy mode, you are destroying, as I've said, the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, and you won't get to the essence. You can do it, there's nothing wrong, but if you're analyzing, if you're reviewing a game, you should play it on the highest difficulty, because that way you will feel the psychological effect, the original psychological effect of the highest complexity, of the highest mental model of the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. If you play a game on easy and all enemies die in one blow, you are not experiencing the psychological pressure of the gameplay mechanics. I know it's extremely deep, but it's important. And if you don't feel that psychological pressure, you won't remember the game the same way that you would do if you play it on easy mode. More on that in a second. What happened to the lost caravan? I'm waiting for you for today. The caravan arrived. We may search for the caravan. This is a rescue party. Let's grab all of the quests. Let's unlock the portal. First thing you should do when you arrive here. Here we have the main quest. Let's activate that. We have the portal there. Speak with Lumen Priest. The situation in Khorum is tense. The enemies are trying to harm Khorum simultaneously. The prince and his conspirator. The Stoneware is west, and at times a great excavation site in the southwest. The desert floor became more aggressive. During the air from here. So if you're up to the challenge and want to perform a great deed, go to the Lumen Priest. There we go. Imagine if the person that says that in his mental perception that I like easy games, so this game sucks, and I would rather have an easy game, and I would rather have an easy game, and I would rather have an easy game that basically ensures that banish the poltergeist. It's horrible. Our home is haunted by poltergeists. They appeared the night before last and immediately showed on lovely sea and here at the end of the world. Banish the poltergeist, but she was powerless. Imagine if this person has this mental perception, and does it change the fact that the abstract complexity of the gameplay may kill my brother's mother, kill the son of Mongoose, kill my brother, his death must be avenged. According to our customs, revenge must be exacted on the hand of a stranger, and our laws our brother does not stain his hands with the blood of a murderer. Kill my brother's murderer, make yourself into my
Shall we seal it in blood? I mean, ink?
So, imagine this person likes easy games, right? That's his mental perception. So, imagine he likes that, and he says, well, but for me this game is worse because it has a higher complexity of the elemental system. Would that change the fact that this person likes easier games? Would that change the fact that the higher the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, the more replayability is enhanced for the player? Would that change that objective fact? No, it would not. It would not change that objective fact because praise be, honor Testa and convert some disciples to the faith. More and more of the towns have grown unsure of the faith, and Testa the god of science.
You should feel honored.
Good.
For
I think we have everything we needed. We have one more quest there. So, would the fact that the mental perception of one individual is that easier games are better, that games with less abstract complexity are better, would that change the fact that the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics enhances replayability? Would it change that objective fact? No, it would not. So the harder the game, the better. Why? Because it will enhance replayability, and by enhancing replayability, you are making the game much more valuable. Because the gameplay loop is extended, and if the gameplay loop is extended, the psychological effect on the player... Get me 5 chicken, my friend. I got a great idea, my friend. You take the children, take that... The yogurt sauce, tasty, slogan, Marie, my friend, is a gold for the chicken and farm.
You have a debt to pay.
Why are you poking your nose into things that don't concern you? Blah blah blah.
Here, you will find nothing but death.
That one is dead. That one is dead. So it does not change the fact. The fact that I like easy games does not change the fact. My papa always says, as I want to finish the dinner, I always my doleful doleful.
Be prepared to pay the price.
The fact that I like easy games does not my mental perception does not change the fact that when the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics is higher, we are actually enhancing the replayability of the game. Why? Because the player will spend more time figuring out the gameplay mechanics. The person will spend more time figuring out the gameplay mechanics. The person will spend more time playing the game, because replayability is enhanced, and the more a person plays a game, the more it remembers it. And the more he or she remembers it. Because that's how the human mind works. The more you spend doing something, the more you remember it. So you probably, if you think about it, people, you will remember games that last for a long time. Want to buy cheap meat? You know what I'm going right here? Take it.
Never had any doubts.
The chicken meat. Here we go. So you will. It's highly probable that the games that you remember first are those. We don't have a second mount, right? Yeah. Are those that you spent a lot of time playing. The psychological effect. Here we go. Yeah. Now we have 2 mounts. Good. The psychological effect of a long game is that that it's highly probable that you'll remember it much more than a game that you play for 1 hour and that's it. That you'll play for 1 hour and that's it. There's no moral dimension to science. Science is like a knife, giving the knife to a surgeon, or a murderer, and which will use no way, and each will use it in his own way. Yes, that sounds very sensible. It was a mistake to doubt the truth in Tesla. Whatever, we are convincing the guys here. Don't let me with you, how can I help? Go to the Fortress of the Dead and try to connect with the Sheik. I take it the commander doesn't know what to do anymore. So it's finally come to this. The Sheik was once the leader of an allied tribe, but when his help was desperately needed, he let the king down. As a result, he and his warriors were cursed to hold down the Fortress of the Dead until they had atoned for the disgrace. The person who wishes to set them free must say this ancient saying to the Sheik's face. Fulfill your obligation, Sheik, your booty. Then, only then, will the undead obey. There is also a test that many have attempted to pass, but the relation have returned. Go to the fortress and
just worry about the collection. I will be back soon.
So, people. The abstract complexity, the higher the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. Blood feud. There we go. Hey, here we should have an objective. Right here, in the middle of nowhere. Or probably it's underground or something like that. Well, whatever. Let's continue with this one. And, as I've said, that mental perception of that an easier game is better, is a fallacy, because objectively it doesn't change the fact that the higher the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, the more replayability is enhanced, and the more replayability is enhanced, the more the player will have a psychological effect of remembering the game and its gameplay mechanics and everything. So it's always important to mention that, as you can see, objectively, the game has a higher abstract complexity. Then we'll read the graves eventually. The game has a higher abstract complexity, and that enhances the replayability, and as I've said, that objectively makes the game superior. It's not a matter of mental perception. It's not a matter of mental perception. It's a matter of metaphysical reality. I mean, pray to all of the gods. We should do that in this game, so we get the bonuses. And let's explore inside. What's this? Keeper of the temple. There is a wisdom of the head and a wisdom of the heart. A problem well stated is a problem half solved. See, that's related to what I'm talking about precisely. Always listen. Oh, I couldn't read it.
Thank you. The next fight will be easy now.
Always listen. I couldn't read it then. Oh, well, you'll be able to if you pause the above. Because it appeared for a second. Here have more graves that we will explore eventually. We've read a lot of graves, people. So, hey, there's a huge one. Magnificent sarcophagus. Zombie? Yeah, zombie. Always.
The city seems to be perfect for my plans.
Good. Converting the faithless. I think there we have to finish a quest there. So, there we go, there's another one. Curiosity is a key to solving every problem that is one of the Tesla. Do you turn my back? There we go. We need to spread the word of Testa, which precisely is our god, and it's part of his side quest at the same time. What an interesting coincidence. Hey, enemies. Ghosts! That's weird. Ghosts usually don't come into human settlements. Alright. Anything else? No. There we go. Another one bites the dust. You did it. Thanks. The ghosts are gone. Perfect. That's not the worst of it. The biggest and most dangerous ghost is in the cellar. You have to banish him, I'm begging you. Yeah, how do I access the cellar? Through here? No?
I will be back soon.
Alright, through... Where? Where's the cellar? That one? Ah, right. Sorry, it was, through here? No? Ah, yeah, it's through there. It's just that we don't have a transition. There we go. There. It'll trigger now. It has that stupid delay of some seconds before you can actually access the dungeon. Stop! Please don't destroy us. We haven't done anything. Daliel, and Wasmet are the evil ones. They ambushed and killed my family in the desert. Our souls want revenge, and will not yield until it has been granted to us. Look at our necklaces. The names of my parents are on it, Sindar and Melissa, see? Alright, and what do we do with that? Yeah, but you're still trying to kill the humans. And besides, there was no other way of doing it. There we go. Cellar cleared. Remember, people, the Inquisitors are here to protect humans.
What a glorious day for me.
What? You know our little secret? It's true, we killed them. What's to that to you? I'll offer you this very nice bout of amnesia. If I say decline, what would happen? Decline?
I cannot waste my
I know. There's no other way.
They
There's
call
no
me a
other way.
bad wolf because I'm
Come on,
so
alright, pretty much. The names of the ghosts mentioned are real, and using their Melissa very well. We are offering a large reward for the capture of the killers. We should confront Delia and Wasma with your findings.
The Inquisition is said to be heartless.
And
I will prove to you otherwise.
as killers, you're a traitor.
mission
What?
was a great success.
There we go. That was perfect justice, people, because the fact that they killed the humans back then doesn't change the fact that the ghosts were haunting the house and terrorizing people. So yeah, disposing of the ghosts is correct, but also dealing with the killers at the same time. See there, those two niggas who proved everything they did. Here's your word.
Never had any doubts.
So yes. Spider, please, here. So yes, I love it when people say, for example, in the lootings of New York of some years ago, with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything, back when they justified it. They killed someone, right? Let's loot and destroy all of the city. You know that in any judicial system, in all of the history of humanity, solving one crime with another crime is not justice. It's kind of like doing the opposite. It's kind of like exponentially increasing the effects of that crime. If there's someone dead, the police officer has to go to jail, of course. It's an excess, unless he was committing a crime. But that's something completely separated from saying there's someone dead, we have the right to loot and destroy a whole city. Kind of like, that's answering a crime with another crime. That's exponentially increasing the effects of a crime. So that's actually not solving the situation, in case you haven't noticed. So yes, this is the same. I love it with that in a lot of games. We have that. We have this topic of answering a crime with another crime, or in this case, with another crime, with a third crime, which is a bribe. And that's actually making it worse rather than solving it. Kind of like, in this case, the ghosts were killed, so the ones that killed the original human beings had to be disposed of. Had to go to jail. In this case, they were killed. Because back in medieval times, that was the way. Justice was dispensed, so it's historically accurate. And then we had to get rid of the ghosts at the same time, because they were terrorizing. But those are two isolated issues. People generally mix them. People who don't study the judicial systems of throughout humanity usually have that reaction. Let's answer a crime with another crime. Sadly, that leads us pretty much nowhere. Here I see that objective, but I don't think it's can be solved from there. It cannot be completed from there. So let's go back to the other quests that we have. We have another quest there. I want to grab all of them before I depart. He who destroys in order to understand whether or not the winner and give my faith in Tesla. Good, that was part of the quest. And what do we have in here? What do we have here? What do we have here? We cover everything here, and there's this twisting path. At least there are signposts telling us to go there. So let's get to the level design that I wanted to... the level design section of the analysis that we wanted to cover today. But yes, a conclusion, objectively, the higher the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, the more replayability is enhanced. And the superior the gameplay mechanics are. And that is objective. It's not a matter of mental perception, people. It's not a matter of mental perception. As I've said, the game implements a lot of elemental systems that we explored on Thursday that definitely make the game more complex, and that enhances replayability. And the fact that replayability is enhanced is something objective. It's not a matter of mental perception. It has higher replayability, that will have the psychological impact on the player of remembering the game much more, and thus is more efficient at being remembered by the player, and it will ensure that the player will have a closer bond with the game. At least it's highly probable. And that is more effective than simply having an easy and short game that will basically won't be remembered a lot. I'm not saying that short games aren't good. We have a lot of good short games, but right behind us. But the ones that we remember the most are long and hard games. That's for sure. So I think we're done with this one. Let's get to the level design. The wheel, the forge, have just last knowing. There we go. I think that was the last of them. Let's start in this one. Let's clean up the other ones. I hadn't explored that section. This one? This one looks like a delayed quest. Something like that. Or not. Well done, my friend. Ah, yeah, the thing that the fetch quest that we were supposed to get. Okay, let me finish all of this. Let me finish all of this section, and we can begin with the level design. What the? This one? I don't see any object to interact with. What's the meaning of this? Perhaps this one? Must be bugged or something. We'll see. We'll see. What else do we have? You need this glue. I got a whole bucket left standing in the rain. Me.
Never had any doubts.
Bucket with milky white glue received. Pretty much. Race tester. Well done. You have a such charismatic personality. It's incredible. Good, good. And with that, we are done with the quests inside of the city. And we have a dungeon there. Let's do the dungeon, shall we? Let's do the dungeon. Shall we? Let's do the dungeon. So we can cover this. So we can cover this part of the... We can complete the capital settlement of the desert. Alright. Alright guys, now that we've covered all of the aspects, we've completed all of the quests of the... Good, my friend, I only need one more thing. Good. Alright, looks like we're not done. What else do you need? What else do you need? Fetch quest here. Gun pods, you wanted the fireworks, the same, there we go. These are last fetch that we need to do. And with that, well done. And with that, we complete that one. Let's get to the first dungeon. Let's get to the first or not. We have another one. The dish from the nearest RPG, thank you. Alright. Oh, let me loot the well. Let me loot the well. And here we go. Alright, first dungeon, something in this, the thing in the cellar, there we go. Let's get to the first dungeon of the day, people. Let's get to the first dungeon of the day. Let's get to the first dungeon of the day. After we've completed, we've covered all of the quests in the capital region, in the capital. Oh, what the fuck? Fearsome monster. Picked up doll. There we go. All right, it's a closed location. Damn it. It was a monster, pretty good loot there. It must be almost at 10 million once again. There we go. There we go. Let's get to the. I think we're done. I think we're done. Let's get to the level design once I get out of the city. Because otherwise I will... You have my doll? Oh, wonderful, thank you. There we go.
Another check in the book of quest.
That's the idea. The delicious skewer? What? Looks like we are not done with this quest. I love it. The guy with that wooden guitar having an electric. It sounds like an electric guitar. That's the thing. The developers of the good thing right here, there, my friend there.
Never had any doubts.
Major still. There we go. Hey, now he has a flute. He has different instruments. Pretty good ambience variety there. This game has a lot of those amazing details that usually we don't pay a lot of attention to. Alright, and with that we're done. Alright, we have the main quest. We proceed with the main quest finally. Sheer Kalana, there you are. Remember, as a quick recap, we haven't seen her in a while since the islands, because it was discovered that the Inquisitor, not the Inquisitor precisely, if you play the good side campaign, you are her father, and because of that, that's a plot twist that we were Inquisitors, and basically now we found her and blah blah. You have to watch the whole series, people. It's a pretty long questline. Hello, father. I'm surprised to see you here. She gets in a shock and she escapes, and we are chasing her. I'm surprised to see you. I wonder what would happen if we play as Seraphim, because you cannot do this quest line. I'm surprised to see you here. So that's why the game has a specific side quests for each class. That enhances replayability precisely, and everything that I've said. The actual complexity is increased and everything. I'm surprised to see you here. You've traveled around the whole world. Doesn't it seem like you could walk around it in a few hours? Sometimes. Good fourth wall reference to the player. We were lucky. The gang Samuel and I smoked out. Samuel smoked out wasn't exactly poor. Now we want to become honest merchants and bring expensive spices from the jungle to Tirlesia. Would you mind if I accompanied you part of the way? I'm meeting up with Samuel at the edge of the jungle.
For the gods.
No worries, my child. No worries. And with that I have everything. What's that quest that doesn't get updated?